I designed a repeat pattern that's going to go onto one of the garments, and now I'm just testing out how big I want the pattern to be on the pants. I just want to use this piece as kind of the hero piece of the collection, rather than just having everything be design and tasteful. We need a hero piece that sticks out amongst what the market's putting out at the moment. If that repeat pattern pant catches your attention, which we've designed it to, but you only really wear black stuff or you have a black wardrobe, you're obviously going to buy the black pant. So the two work in combo and each works with the other. Today I made some social media posts for my personal channel. Quicker paced, social media orientated, telling the story of the three brands, a little bit of humour, things like that. Once again, trying out different things until something works. I'm also going on my first group ride tomorrow morning. My bike's back from being serviced, so can finally get back into the saddle. Honestly, I'm a tiny bit nervous for it. Maybe anxious over nervous. I've never ridden in a group before. It's always just been by myself or with Ed, like you've seen in the other episodes. For the first time I'm riding with a group, and it's a pretty quick group. If someone's trying to talk to me and I can barely breathe, maybe I'm excited and I'm just confusing that excitement with anxiousness. The group ride is put on by MAP, which is the Melbourne cycling apparel brand, which I wear on the bike. It's definitely a brand that I look up to in terms of how they've been able to create a successful apparel brand in Australia. I watched a couple interviews of their founders, and one thing that stuck out to me was their Italian manufacturing at the very start, and the first big move they did was open a 3PL in the Netherlands, I think it was, just so they had that European logistics sorted out, instead of having their made in Italy garments shipped back to Australia and then shipped back across to Europe. I don't know if that's something that Saddle can do on its own, but maybe once the three brands are up and running, we can negotiate terms with a 3PL in Europe. Excited for the ride tomorrow. I'll whip out the Insta 360 again and yeah, see how we go. Sorry. Well, I missed the group ride. The group ride starts from Collingwood, which is an inner city suburb in Melbourne, and it rides all the way down to Mordialloc, which is where I'm from. And they leave Collingwood at 6 o'clock, and it's about 30 kilometres to Mordy, and they said on their socials that they travel at around 35 kilometres an hour. I just needed to be there by 7, and I think I got there at 7:02 or 7:03 maybe, and I wasn't sure if they were there yet or if I had just missed them, so I waited there for 40 minutes because I really didn't know how long it would actually take them. And then at 7:45 I just decided to go on my own ride. And I went all the way to Port Melbourne, which is around 30k in itself. Got on my phone and had a message from Ed that they already made their way back to Collingwood. He said that they were travelling at 45 to 50 kilometres an hour. So they probably got to Mordialloc before 7 and left before 7, so I really didn't have a chance at getting there. A little disappointed, but I'll just try again next week. I think I'm going to have to train a bit this weekend to get that speed up. I am actually going that side of the city today. Temptation Vacation pop-up on in Collingwood. That'll be fun. It's a bit tough. It takes an hour from where I am to get to the places that anything actually happens. That's for my circle, really. For the fashion cyclist circle, It is a bit like frustrating, but I don't know. Eventually one day I'll probably move out to there. Now that I've just gone in to edit the video, I noticed that when I did the piece to camera talking about the pop-up I went to, I filmed it all in slow-mo because I had done slow-mo clips that day and the setting was on slow-mo, so it didn't record any audio. So I'm just going to fill in what I basically said in that little part because I think it is quite important to talk about these things. Basically, I was just talking about the little anxieties I get going to those pop-up events. And it's pointless me having these anxieties, having this camera and not talking about it. Especially when I know other people at these type of things have these exact same feelings. Going into these events, I get a lot of anxieties, especially when I go in by myself. It's quite confrontational going into a room full of like a bunch of like people that have done things that you want to do as well. They're running brands and you're just kind of getting yours started. And there's a couple of points that I think contribute to these anxieties that I have at these things. The first is because I live a fair while away from the city where all these events take place and everyone else lives, I'm kind of separated and isolated from that community. And within that, it also takes an hour drive to get into these events. When you're coming from my way, you spend an hour in the car and you're feeling down because you're driving at like 5 to 6 when the sun's setting, when you usually would be driving home from work. So you drive in and your mind is like in that rest mode instead of, oh, now I get to like talk to people and be social. So that like puts you in like a weird kind of state of mind, and just before you enter you kind of have to lift yourself up and be that energetic person. But this could be just a pure reflection of how I see these events, but when you go in there, it's a lot of just like looking around, eye gazing at who's coming in the door, who's around, who's attending these events, what they're wearing. You're not actually present in the moment. I'm talking to them about like what I'm doing and I'm asking questions about what they're doing and they're just totally disinterested. I take that to heart quite quickly. And then from that point, I'll just shut down, which will lead to harder conversations to get back up. That feeling of being isolated in a room full of people can occur very quickly. And it's nothing to do with like the event or like the people at the event. It's purely just the way like I'm interpreting it, the social construct of how these things just pan out. And I just want to use this camera and the platform to actually talk about this type of stuff because I know I'm not alone. I actually had to like step out for a bit and like regather myself, and I waited for my friend Spencer to come in. There was one chat that really grounded me in the whole event. It probably only lasted 30 to 40 seconds, but the way this person was connecting with me and I was connecting with them. Felt like we were just locked in together, and it was even just for 30 seconds. And that person also encouraged me to keep making these videos. So yeah, thank you to that person. It really just takes that one little interaction to make it a special event though, doesn't it? I think that's all of what I said in that part. I'm just trying to remember. Oh, there's one more thing. I've been listening to Ryan Holiday's Stillness is the Key, or The Key is Stillness. There's a lot of learnings I'm taking from it in my daily practices, and one I listened to a couple of days ago just before the event was this certain taking from, I think it was Epicurus. You have to be comfortable not knowing about these certain things, just because you're so focused on where your life is and what your path is that you're not listening to the broad noise that is around. It can kind of isolate you in conversation if you're not adhering to this contemporary noise. That little quote from Epicurus really helped. I'm being content with not listening and surrounding myself with this noise that is just changing every day and changing every minute, but I'm focused on a path of my own. It's also another way to look at when you're not as well versed as someone in something. It just means that the noise that is surrounding you, you've been able to block out and just focus on one thing, which is a very, very necessary skill at the moment. And I don't think there has been a time where we have had as much noise around us. So just be comfortable being ignorant to things. Other than that, it was a cool event. Like, the collection is crazy cool. I don't know what happened to me this week, but I filmed again in slow-mo, so doing a little voiceover narration again. Basically what I'm talking about then was this lens that I bought when I first purchased the camera, when I first got into filming the journey of starting these 3 brands. I wasn't like well versed in all the gear and stuff, and thought I would get myself a lens that makes videos look like cinema, but it just meant that setting up the camera, getting the shots took 20 times longer than they actually should. But the image does come out great. It does look a lot more cinematic and has these nice characteristics to the image, rather than just a normal aspherical lens like this. Yeah, I basically just wanted to talk about that because I'm selling that lens just because I want to make a more leaner videography setup so I can take this camera anywhere I go, just pop it out, be able to film something rather than getting it out, changing the settings, getting the mic to work, fixing the aperture. Too much friction just means that you don't bother getting the shot, but if it's frictionless where I can pull it out, press the button and start talking, I'm obviously going to start doing it more. And that's what I've found already. So if you are a filmmaker and you're interested in a anamorphic, I've been using it on my Sony FX30. If you're interested in that, yeah, let me know. Just did a city day. It was quite wet in the city, but managed to pick up the lav mic finally. I picked up a couple of items. I've been wearing this compression thermal for like the last month. I think it's like a $25 thermal from some outdoor warehouse. I wanted to get a quality top, a similar cut, similar fit that I can wear as a uniform. Picked up this Arc'teryx long sleeve top with a quarter zip. Higher quality fabric, higher quality finish to it. And it's something I can wear every day as a uniform. When I'm going to be wearing it as a uniform, comfort and quality take priority. Willing to spend that money on something I wear every day. Also on the back of reading Ryan Holiday's The Key is Stillness, I wanted to go back into his repertoire of books that he's wrote. And so I picked up The Daily Stoic. I found the practice of listening just to his audiobook has made me more present, grateful and content. A little bit in the same realm of Stoic literature. There's this manga series, it's quite a popular series, called Vagabond. I'm on the second volume now, and it's basically about a story of this warrior who finds stillness and presence in his craft, and he turns himself from a life of being a demon and being a savage into one of the best swordsmen in history. So it's written based on the story of Miyamoto Musashi, who authored the Book of Five Rings, if you want to get a little deeper into that little story. I decided to finish off this week with a nice Sunday sunset run. Thanks again for watching. Next week's video is gonna incorporate a lot more of my training, just because I've come to the realization that when my fitness is good, when my mental health is good, I'm performing better and I can make better content for you guys. Thanks again for watching, and thanks for being curious. Do you know?